everyone. Thanks again for tuning into Sin's Workshop. Hope you're all having a wonderful day. Today we're going to be talking about Lost in the Neverwoods by Aiden Thomas, which was the Book of the Month winner on sinsworkshop.com. If you head over to sinsworkshop.com right now, you can vote for November's Book of the Month title, and they will also get a featured book review written on my website, promotional long banner. So go ahead and head over there and place your votes, guys. In any case, as you might imagine, this is a retelling of Peter Pan. It's a dark fantasy retelling, and it's very contemporary in its setting because it does take place in Midwestern. I'm trying to see if I can remember exactly where. I didn't write it down in my notes. I know, I'm so bad at that. Midwest USA. You know, this one is not one that takes place over the pond. It takes place here in the US. I did like the atmosphere for the story. So let me start there. The story does take some time to get into for me personally because I felt like Thomas was kind of dragging out. Sorry, my daughter is kicking quite painfully. They are dragging out the world building, I guess you could say. I'm okay with that. It does slow down the pacing of the story for my taste, but you're really getting background on Wendy Darling and Mr. and Mrs. Darling. You're getting background on what's happening in their small little town, which is kids are going missing. You know, kids are going missing in this little town. Sorry, I'm so thirsty today. Kids are going missing, and 5 years prior, Wendy and her two brothers went missing for 6 months, and she was the only one who returned home. So and she can't remember. She can't remember what happened in those 6 months. All she knows is that she likes to tell stories of Peter Pan, stories that her mother told her. So it's really, really interesting to see a boy pretty much kind of fall out of the sky who's about as old as her, whose name is Peter Pan. And at first she doesn't know what to believe. She thinks she's kind of losing her mind. She's like, no, magic doesn't exist. Fairy tales are fairy tales, I think for the first half of the book, the pacing is slow. I will say that. Like I said before, there is a lot of world building, a lot of history, a lot of Wendy kind of second guessing herself, pulling away from her friends. Her family has been broken for the past 5 years, ever since she came home without her brothers, Michael and John. But when that sinister element starts to breach the pages, you're discovering Peter has lost his shadow, and the shadow is wreaking havoc. Because what are our shadows? It's our darker selves, in a way, right? It's literally a dark reflection of ourselves. So Thomas really does bring that kind of to life. Like, what does it mean? What would happen if your dark reflection got loose on the world? In my case, probably all hell would break loose. But what does that mean for Peter? Who's all light? When you're all light and your shadow's all darkness, how sinister is that? So there's something in the woods, there's something stalking Wendy, there's something stealing children. So I really do like that atmosphere that is being built up with the rising tension. And it does serve as a good counterbalance for that slow pace, in my opinion. It does take some getting into, because at first you're kind of wondering, okay, where are we going with this story? The opening, the beginning, it doesn't give anything away, but it also doesn't quite ground the reader in the story, because you're getting into this, you're acknowledging the fact that, yes, this is a Peter Pan retelling. But what exactly does that mean for the context of the story, you know? So you are kind of wondering what's going on. You know what I mean? You're a little confused, you're a little lost. For me, it meant it took longer for me to become invested in the stories. Also because I wasn't a fan of the Darlings themselves, you know. I felt like, yes, you guys have been through a lot of pain. I understand that. But your whole family dynamic, I don't know how to put it into words. It just didn't draw me in. It made me feel alienated. I wasn't invested in them. You know, from their internal narrative to the way that they all just kind of talked to one another and treated one another. Like, there were times when, I get it, Mr. Darling isn't as love and warm and fuzzy as he used to be, but he's still a loving father. You understand? You get that from the story, from the context. But sometimes the word choice, with Wendy flinching, you're just like, okay, like, did he become an abusive alcoholic after your brothers went missing? Like, what is going on there? You know, that's just an example. You kind of think her parents have checked out, but they haven't checked out. They still manage to put food on the table. They're still there for her. It's more of just everyone in the family is kind of alienating one another. They don't know how to be a complete whole. And they realize that. I will say this. I will say that there is some realization to that by the end of the story. So they do, once again, come together when they find closure and become a family again. A family worth loving. You know, these are not the Darlings that you're familiar with. They are not a warm, loving, fuzzy family. They are just alienated. They're broken. They're broken. And you can understand that from a reading standpoint, but from the language to the tone to the dynamics, it really does make it hard for you as the reader, as for me especially, to really ground myself in them, to really lose myself in them, to become invested in them. I will say, you know, typical Peter and Wendy dynamic. I did like their dynamic. I like how Wendy does grow to overcome many of her fears in the story, and she does become stronger for it. She does become a stronger, more resilient character. I will say this for that ending. I was like, it was just that last quarter of the book. Whew, that did a number on me. I mean, I was just jaw dropped. I was like, what the? It was unique. I never read that before. Made sense, but at the end I was just like, what? I don't want to spoil it for you because that ending was really incredible. That last quarter of the book, you know, the tension has ramped up. The pacing has ramped up. You know, it's just rising and rising and rising to this moment. And you're just like, what? didn't see that coming. From miles away. Still, it's one of those in hindsight, and that's what I love. If I can see it coming, I don't mind it so much, but I love it when I don't see something coming, first of all, and when it doesn't seem like it's out of left field. I don't mind shockers in literature as long as they fit the context of the story, and Thomas did an amazing job making sure that his twist at the end, first of all, came out of nowhere and still fit the context of the story and the world he was building. It was incredible. It was. It really does make up for that first third of the book that's kind of, slow, focusing more on history, on world building, on building up this universe that Thomas is working hard to build. But damn, that was a good ending. And it's bittersweet too, I love a good bittersweet ending. I'm a sucker for them, actually. I love happy endings, yeah, and sad endings. I think sometimes we just need a sad ending, but bittersweet. They take my breath away, bittersweet endings. It's just it's not sad, it's not happy. It's just what it is. And it's beautiful. It was beautifully written. So I loved it. So I will give Lost in the Neverwoods 3.75 stars. Not quite 4, just because the darling dynamics they left a lot of room to be desired. I think the language, word choice was off sometimes when it came to establishing them as a family dynamic. But overall, I did like it. Overall, I did like it, and I did enjoy it. Very happy this won the Book of the Month title. Was so happy to read it, honestly. It was a really good choice. Highly recommend it. If you love Peter Pan retellings, this is definitely one you have to put on your list. If you like fairy tale contemporaries, also another one to put on your list. It's unique enough to stand out, and that twist at the end is memorable enough and unpredictable enough to just blow you out of the water and make you want more. That's what it does. So once again, 3.75 out of 5 stars. If you want to go ahead and purchase the book, please remember to purchase the book from your local bookseller or online book retailer. All I ask is that you support your independently owned bookstores and bookstore chains closest to you. Remember, online is there. BarnesandNoble.com, Bookshop.org, IndieBound. These are 3 great resources for you to shop and support your local booksellers. I just ask that you don't use Amazon, because nothing beats going to a bookstore, in my opinion. You walk in, and then the smell of books, and then browsing the shelves, you never know what you're going to discover. And that's something I hope we can keep alive for future generations. If money's tight, check out the book from your local library. You can also get ebooks and audiobooks from the Libby app. All you need is a library card, and you can sign up for a digital library card on your library's website. All I gotta do is Google it. That's what I did. And on that note, I hope you all continue to support me here by liking this video, subscribing to my channel, and sharing it with all your book-loving friends. You can also become a supporter on Buy Me a Coffee, or by purchasing one of my handmade candles. I'm about to make a whole bunch in a little bit. I hope you all have a great rest of your day, and as always, happy reading.